You're listening to Errol Parker and Clancy Overall, editors of the Batuta Advocate on Desert Rock FM. Here we are on the Batuta Advocate radio show downtown Batuta in Koala Studios, and we are sitting with a special guest today. It means a lot to Errol and myself to interview her. It means a lot to the town to have her around. She's an icon. She's a 2018 ARIA Hall of Famer. Kasey Chambers, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Now, you are on tour. You're doing a 20-year anniversary tour.
Yeah.
Of your first album.
Of the first album, yeah, because I'm just starting to get to know the lyrics of that album now, so I figure let's go out on the road now and I can throw all the lyric sheets away. Let's do it.
Have you been touring much? Because we interviewed James Rain a couple of weeks ago and he effectively told us while he announces new tours, he doesn't stop touring.
Well, same. Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's just really one tour rolls into the next one. And then, if I try and have too much time off, the bank manager, he catches up with me and then, I'm going to get back out there again.
Couple ATO tours.
Yeah, well, and the thing is 3 kids to feed, so.
It gets expensive, doesn't it?
It gets expensive.
So just the artwork changes every 18 months.
And this time I didn't even have to change the artwork, because we've already done the Captain tour 20 years ago. So I just had to, put a 20 on top of it and we're laughing. We're good to go.
Now, was The Captain the album you recorded in Norfolk?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, you've done your homework. Very
well,
good.
No, that was an
How do you
interesting
know
thing.
this?
That was interesting because that kind of feels like someone does mid-career, They need a little bit of time to go find some
right.
quiet place.
Yeah.
But you hit the ground running with a little bit of a sabbatical.
Well, kind of, but I'd made 4 albums. It sounds stupid. I'd made 4 albums before my debut album. I was in a band called the Dead Ringer Band with my mum and my dad and my brother and myself. So the 4 of us travelled all around Australia for honestly probably 10 years or something like that before I even made my debut album, my debut solo album. So I think I had probably experienced a whole lot of stuff before that most people before they make their first record don't really get to do. So I was pretty tired. I was pretty tired already.
Yeah. You're a Von Trapp family.
Exactly. By that time.
Did you have to break free from the family a little bit? Because how did that come about?
You know what? They kind of kicked me out,
Yeah,
really.
right.
It was a little bit more of that way,
Yeah,
I think. Well, we'd been travelling around for a long time making records with the Dead Ringer Band. My mum and dad had actually got divorced. So this kind of broke up the band, obviously.
Broke up the band.
My brother and I are going, what? Yeah. What are you getting a divorce for? But what does that mean for the band, Right. But yeah, obviously that sort of meant things changed a lot for the Dead Ringer Band. And it was really that point of my life where I kind of went, all right, am I going to make a solo album or am I going to get a day job? Yeah. And then I realised I don't really have any other skills. So I kind of went, okay, I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to make an album.
So what was the allure of Norfolk Island? I mean, I just want to unpack that for a second. I mean,
for a young woman.
Yeah.
Of all the places to record an album, why did you choose?
Yeah.
Uluru, Broome.
Exactly.
And
it was sort of, I mean, it sounds weird when I talk about it now because it does sound like a strange thing to do, but at the time it felt very natural. I was half living out there at the time. I'd gone there weirdly enough, I'd gone there with the Dead Ringer Band for a country music festival, right? We were just booked there. Played this festival like we did, any festival all around Australia or whatever. But we just fell in love with this place and I started spending a whole lot of time there. I had my first love on Norfolk Island after I'd lived there for a little while, which was the Captain,
Right.
So he was the guy that I wrote that song about, and a lot of the songs on the record.
He wasn't a local. He was an out-of-towner, or you?
No, he was a local as well,
right.
and his family. I wrote the song actually about him before he became my first love, but his family, we were very close with them. We actually lived with them while we were out there. So all of these songs had been, sort of inspired by this incredible place that I was spending a lot of time in. And a lot of the other songs were inspired by a trip I took to Africa, my first trip to Africa. And I've spent a lot of time there in the last few years, but this was my first time and I fell in love with the place. So I think at that point, having half the songs, inspired by Africa, half by Norfolk Island. Norfolk Island actually seemed like the more normal choice than to go all the way to Africa to make a record. I don't know, it just kind of fell into place. It felt right at the time. Yeah.
Have you been back since, or is it like an annual thing you do?
I actually haven't been there for quite a few years now, but I did spend a lot of time there afterwards as well. And, it got a lot of inspiration for other songs too. And I think it was also that, a place to get away to as well after touring each time, going to this. It reminded me a lot of the place I'd grown up in. I spent a lot of time down in Southend in South Australia, which is a little fishing village. And I think it reminded me a lot of that from my childhood.
So you were effectively in a carnival family.
Yeah.
A bit of a
Carny folk.
Yeah, showy.
Yeah. Carny folk with cowboy hats, basically, is what we were.
But
sorry.
that was where home was, or was it Mount Gambier, that part of the world?
I was born in Mount Gambier, and then the little place, Southend, the little fishing village, is my dad's hometown, and I spent half of my childhood in that town and the other half of my childhood in the outback of Australia because my dad was a professional fox hunter when I was growing up. So
Trapper.
random,
He was a trapper.
yeah. So he plays in my band now.
Yeah, right.
I mean, he's my guitar player now, but so a lot of my early childhood was spent literally sitting around a campfire just playing music with my family and traveling around, living in our car. Yeah.
Now, when you came out with that first solo album, were you considered country?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I never really thought about not being country at all. I'd grown up on country music. I'd loved country music. Well, most of it. Some of it's shit, but you know what it's like. You could say that about any music, but there's a lot of country music these days that I don't really connect to very much, and feels like a long way away from country music to me.
That Nashville drawl.
Yeah. So it's that seems like a whole other world of music to me. But then, I grew up on like Emmylou Harris and Johnny Cash and Merle Haggard and George Jones and that sort of thing, you know.
But it was Van Zandt.
Yeah, I loved, loved Towns.
Have you spent much time over in Nashville, over in the States?
Yeah, we go and tour in America every year, a couple of times a year sometimes, and for the last sort of 20, 25 years something. So, we've spent a lot of time.
There,
In America, I don't really go and spend a lot of time in one town.
Yep.
My brother lives in Nashville now. He has a studio over there and produces a lot of other artists and does that. But I usually just, roll into town, play a gig, and then off we go to another town, which is the way I kind of like it when I tour in America. I want to just travel around and play as many gigs as I can. And, it's always fun.
So what are some of the differences, I guess, between being a touring country musician here in Australia as opposed to being in America? Like, is there some cultural differences? Is there?
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to find a meat pie with sauce over there when you're really craving one. So I kind of like that about Australia. I miss them. Yeah.
In every servo, I guess.
It is, culturally, it is very different.
The diet must be tough on tour in the States.
Oh, man, that kills me. It really does kill me. I miss Australia a lot when it comes to the food.
You miss bread.
Bread.
Yeah.
I know, they put sugar in everything over there. I don't know. I don't really understand that. But, musically, a lot of the stuff that I grew up on comes from America. So I think even before I first went there, I did feel a connection with America on a music level. I've never wanted to live there, and like over the years, I really just still, when I go there, I just want to travel around and play as many gigs as I can. But I would go, like, I got to open up some great tours for people like Lucinda Williams and Robert L. Keane, people like this who I admired, and they're people that have influenced me musically so much over the years. So then to get to go and play to their audiences, and then to have my own audience over there is pretty amazing. It's great, but it's pretty special to fly in and see the Sydney Opera House, let me tell you, when you get home from it, and then go straight to the pie shop.
Down there in Woolloomooloo.
That's right.
Australian country music was always, Slim and Tex and all those other, names you hear. And then there was, probably just before your time, a bit of a international sound that kind of, the vowels changed in the way people sang, the example I'm going to use is "Boys from the Bush." Which isn't the way you'd say "boys from the bush," but that was the sound.
Yeah.
And then it kind of came back. There was a kind of drag back to more kind of, Australian campfire sounding bush music.
Right.
And it was particularly the girls who were doing it. It was, there was you, there was Missy, there was Sarah Storer, and there was that. What was it that made, that kind of sound? What brought it back? Was it the authenticity of the touring, and that's what you'd always known? Like, because it feels like when you hear bands, particularly Australian bands, singing with American vowels, it feels like there might be a bit more of a machine behind them. Is that?
Yeah. Oh, you know what? I mean, I've always in those early days, you'd certainly listen to some of my stuff, and I sound really American because I'd grown up on all of this American country music, and so I think that twang was just in there, and also I didn't really know that it was a debate as well. So I just sang what naturally came out for me, and because most of the stuff I'd heard was American, I actually had that twang, and then I don't know, and then some songs, like then I'd write a song about the Nullarbor Plain, and because that was such an Australian thing,
the Nullarbor.
Yeah, it didn't sound right saying bore. Nullarbor. It was very weird. So I don't know, but to be really honest with you, I just don't even really know because I don't really analyse it that much. And I look at my favourite artists, like ever, who have influenced me as much as anybody, and I just picking out of a hat here, two of my biggest influences are Steve Earle and Paul Kelly. And I listen to and
they tour together a lot, don't they?
And that's amazing because they're like, Steve Earle's accent is like, it's southern, it's like the full thing, and then Paul Kelly sounds as Australian as you can possibly get. Yeah. And yet those two voices appeal to me so much, and it's not anything to do with their accent. It's to do with their authenticity. They're just singing. I don't think they would even know what an accent is or isn't, or care. They just sing.
What's your favourite Steve Earle song? Is that a hard question?
One of my favourites is Goodbye. That's always just been one song that has just kind of breaks my heart every time I hear it. And I just recently did this weird tour, which was on the Cayamo cruise in America, which is like this Americana cruise that goes throughout the Gulf of Mexico. And you go to, stop in at Jamaica and Mexico and all that, and it's just beautiful, amazing. And basically it was all of my favourite artists that you could have handpicked. And I was sitting down just watching Emmylou Harris play, and she sang Goodbye, the Steve Earle song, and I was just like, and we were actually moving on the boat headed out of Jamaica at the time, and I was like, this is the most surreal moment of my entire life. I'm sitting here and I'm listening to Emmylou Harris sing Goodbye, Steve Earle's Goodbye, which is one of my favourite songs. We just left Jamaica, and I'm like, this is insane. My life is so weird.
Felt a bit like school camp for country musicians.
Exactly, yeah.
Did you grow up on Slim? Was that playing?
Yeah. I mean, like I said before, a lot of the stuff I grew up on was American, but then that was,
you also had a dad.
Yeah. Also, so my dad listened to a lot of Slim and a bit of Buddy Williams and sort of that early sort of Australian kind of stuff, but mostly Slim. My dad loves him. And I mean, not just even as a musician and the songs, Slim and the way that he travelled with his family out on the road was what inspired my dad to want to do the same thing. Yeah. He was like, well, I want to do our version of the travelling country band, with Slim being out on the road with all of his family. Yeah. So my dad packed up his family and went, let's go out on the road and travel and play country music. Why can't we do this, So
how do you think he found the time to write, like, what was it, like 118 albums?
Isn't that insane? When you think about that.
It's like 2 a year. I
know. And, I think about it every time someone, in the last couple of years when I've brought out my last couple of records, like a lot of people, do interviews and people will be like, oh, wow, your 11th album or your 12th album, did you ever think you'd get to that? In the back of my mind, every time I think Slim Dusty made over 100 records. Like, I'm way behind. I got to catch up.
With like 15, 20 songs on each.
I know.
Yeah.
It's
But
insane.
all the
Wow.
songs have the same chords.
They do.
And they all
you
sound the same.
But they all sounded
Just-
great.
Yeah.
They
The
all
words are
sounded
different,
great.
yeah.
That's the thing.
There's
Yeah.
about 120 different towns we went to.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of towns in Australia to
Deer
sing
and Bandy.
about. So, yeah, exactly. Good
Cunnamulla
on him.
Fella.
Yeah.
In Charleville. Yeah. There's only that many towns that he can write a song about. How has that been? Because you've got kids that I'm guessing don't come on cruise ships with you in Jamaica.
They do, and
Oh,
they
right.
did.
Right.
Yeah, they all did.
You're just carrying on the tradition on the road with the family?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, maybe my parents were a little bit more patient than I am because my kids annoy the hell out of me when I'm out on the road. They annoy me at home too, actually. I'm not being fair. They're annoying at home and on the road, let's face it.
It sounds like your parents put you to a bit more work, though.
Yeah,
the
I
difference?
reckon so, yeah. Well, I don't know how my parents did it. They did it without even having iPads to shove in our face and go,
Yeah.
here's your babysitter. Look, I'm really lucky that the kids come out on the road with me a whole lot, and I also have a really great support group with my family to help out, at home and on the road, and their dads and, all of that. So I'm pretty lucky with all of the people I have around me. I couldn't do it without them. And look, I'm not like any normal working mum, Some days you feel like you're smashing it and you could take on the world and everything's going great. And then sometimes you're just rocking back and forth in the fetal position going, what the hell am I doing? And bawling
waiting.
your eyes out. Yeah. Actually, more those days than the other ones. But anyway.
Just wishing someone would. Can you tell us a little bit about when you became a household kind of name? You were on ad campaigns right across the country. You had, Pretty Enough and True Colours kind of charted well outside of the, the circles you would call your base.
Yeah.
They were the type of songs that ended up on like Triple J, and like
Wallabies ads.
Yeah, it was crazy.
That's a very widespread.
I think it was very gradual. It wasn't like, I know probably Not Pretty Enough was something that did change my life a bit overnight, I guess, because that did go to number one on the pop charts, and it was like all of a sudden, everyone did know what that song was and everything in Australia. A lot of outside of that, most other things in my life, most other successes have happened a lot more gradually, I guess, and I don't think I really knew what was happening as they were happening, and I'm kind of glad of that now because I think it would have been pretty overwhelming for me, and I'd come from a pretty simple family and a simple life and all of that, and I don't know that I would have dealt very well with fame overnight or anything like that. So my life has kind of just gradually gone in that direction. I also think, honestly, I know you can't, like, it's not 100% that you can just go whether you choose to be famous or you choose how to be famous or whatever. I do think there's a choice in whether you buy into fame.
Yeah.
And I have chosen not to do that very much in my life. I want to live a fairly normal life and I like my life the way that it is and I don't ever – there's a difference between, having your name out there and being in the public eye and being a celebrity. You know, I don't do celebrity things and I don't buy into that sort of stuff because I actually believe that feeds a whole different beast. Yeah. And that beast is not what I want or what I choose, what I need for my music either.
Take from you creatively as well, you reckon?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, already my life of just being a busy working mum takes away from what I do creatively. And let alone going to the Logies. Exactly. Don't get me wrong. And I'm not even saying it's all that bad. I just don't think it suits me. I don't think it suits my personality and who I am. And
you reckon you might get in a bit of trouble?
Yeah. Oh, man. Well, I'm certainly glad that a lot of my success was not when social media was around.
Yeah.
Every guest says that.
Yeah.
All the footballers?
I think that's a bit scary to think of that. Now I'm kind of smart enough to maybe behave myself a bit more when I go out.
You also got a few CD sales in there too.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So we're not going to see you as a coach or a judge on The Voice or on Australia's Got Talent or anything?
I don't think so. I don't think those sort of things really would suit me. I don't even think I'd be very good at it. You know, I really don't.
Tell everyone they were the best.
Well, that's it. You've got to be a little bit more scandalous. I think I'm a bit boring to be on those shows.
So what is your opinion of those shows? Because we have asked a couple of musos in the past, we asked Paul Kelly, and he was like, just as long as the kids are happy, I guess, and we've asked a couple others, and there's been a bit of a mixed reaction to them. What's your opinion?
Yeah, you know what? I have a very, very strong opinion of those things, and my strong opinion is it depends what you want out of your career.
Yeah.
It's 100% that, and because I do get young artists come to me sometimes and go, what's your advice? Should I do this and should I do that? And I go, well, you know what? I can't tell you what you should or shouldn't do without knowing what you want your journey to be, I would never go on them. I would never have gone on them if they were around back then. Yeah. But I wanted a very different sort of career than most people.
Yeah, for sure.
I watch them every now and then. I haven't watched them for a while, actually, but my kids watch them sometimes, so you see an episode here and there. But I remember watching one, I think it was The Voice maybe. I can't remember, but watching an episode one time where there was this woman who was like 50 and she'd never been and sung a gig, and she had this amazing voice. She was incredible. She'd spent her whole life dedicating her whole life to her kids, to her family, and she just woke up one day and went, you know what, no, I do want to fulfill my dream of going out and singing in front of a whole lot of people. And she went really well. The crowd loved her. She smashed it. And I was like, you know what? That's what this show's for. She would have never done that if it wasn't for that show giving her the opportunity to do that. And she didn't want this career of being a singer-songwriter over here and, doing all that. And I thought, good on you. That's exactly, it gave an opportunity for that woman to fulfill a dream. And it was beautiful to watch. Yeah.
What did you have in mind for your career, and has it turned out kind of that way? Like, did you think you'd be on the road this much?
You know what? I just, seriously, all I thought was, if I can avoid getting a day job for a little while, then that's good for me. And look, back in the day, we're talking 20 years ago before I made the Captain album, and the sort of music that I played, I was 100% sure that I would never really get a whole lot of success. It just doesn't appeal to a lot of people, and that was okay with me. I honestly didn't mind. I didn't have this driving force to be really successful or to see my name up in lights or whatever. I just thought, let's just do this until I can't do it anymore, and I'll just have a whole lot of fun. And, I remember when I made the Captain album, so I made most of it on Norfolk Island, and then there was a part where I got two of my favourite singer-songwriters, Buddy Miller and Julie Miller, to sing and play on the record, and that was in Nashville. So we recorded it at their place, and he'd been a huge influence on me over that time, Buddy Miller. And we went into his studio, we recorded his parts, and I was like, I am on top of the world. And he said, I'm going to take you guys out for dinner at my favourite restaurant around the corner, and we've had such a great day. And I was just like, this is amazing, best time of my life, living the dream. He took us around the corner to this Chinese restaurant, and they had your fortune cookie at the end, right? And I'm just going, this is so surreal. I'm in Nashville, Tennessee. Yeah. Buddy Miller has taken me to his favourite restaurant. I've just finished recording my debut album. This fortune right here, I am going to live by whatever this says for the rest of my life. This is it. This is a turning point in my life. I opened up the fortune cookie and it said, "You love Chinese food." And I was like, okay, what does this mean then? And at the time, I had this little moment of being disappointed. I was like, no, I wanted this to set my tone for my life. Yeah. And you know what? I know it sounds stupid, but it did. I went, you know what? Don't overanalyze everything. Have fun with everything. Not everything has to change the world. You do, and it was right. I do love Chinese food, so, I do want to live by that. I'm like, yes, you don't have to everything doesn't have to be the biggest, changing the world thing. Just play music, do what you want to do, have your opinions, stand up for what you believe in, but just have fun with it.
Are you a bit of a star sign girl as well?
No, I'm not at all.
No,
I thought you were leaning pretty heavily into the fortune cookie there.
no.
No, I don't need star signs now, do I? I got my fortune I needed. Yeah.
Kincumber Chinese. Do you get much? There'd be some good regional Chinese, I reckon, in the Central Coast.
Oh, absolutely. I live by that.
Yeah. You ended up on the Central Coast, so Central Coast, New South Wales.
Yep.
Gosford, I guess, would be the biggest town centre around that way.
Yeah,
so.
Gossy.
And that's that's become a hub. Did you create that as like the country music kind of expat hub?
I know. I think a lot of people think I did, but I didn't. There was quite a few of them around there before I got there. But, I don't know. It's just weird because there's a bunch of country music, singer-songwriter musicians all living around that area forever. Yeah. It's insane, yeah.
And it's just by chance you don't have like secret underground kind of Illuminati Central Coast meetings?
Can I?
Well, I suppose like it's kind of the same like how up at Byron. I mean, like that's where that's where you get all those types.
Well, there's death metal for a while in Byron. It's gradually turned into that more Xavier Rudd sound.
Yeah, well now it's got
true. Yeah.
It's because of people like Xavier that now it's got the highest house price. In Australia, it's like
country musicians haven't done that to
no.
Copacabana just yet.
It's the opposite now because we all live there. The sales have dropped a bit. The prices are down. But you're not allowed in there unless you have a cowboy hat. You don't have to wear it, but you do have to own one, or they won't let you into the Central Coast.
Little Longreach.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people would be kind of confused as to where you're from because country music in Australia, I guess. Queensland feels like they own a lot of it over the years, even though Slim was from Kempsey. Where do you find you get the most love on tour?
Oh man, will I get in trouble?
Tamworth?
No, seriously, whenever a tour goes on sale, Queensland and WA are the first to sell out. Yep. Always. Oh, you know what? Regional Victoria have been actually really good to us lately. Yeah, so now I'm thinking, but no, I don't know if there's something about Queensland, outback, regional Queensland. There's definitely something about the connection between country music and regional Queensland, without a doubt. And even I think, like Brizzy often sells, really quickly before everywhere else. Yeah. But Melbourne got in first on our captain tour. It was our first. The captain tour went on sale last week, and they Melbourne sold out. Was the first show to sell out. Oh, so I'll give them that.
Good work, Melbourne.
Yeah, well done.
Do you was there ever a part of your career, before the kids and stuff, where you might have been in the fast lane? Like, what was happening? Were you Powderfinger, hanging out with, Bernie and those guys, or
Missy,
or the festival kind of era?
Well, you know what? I absolutely was that era, and I was hanging out with all those people, but I was the first one to go home to bed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
we ask every guest this. Yeah.
Who was the last one to go to bed?
Well, I don't know. I was in bed, so I didn't know.
Sounds like Pete Murray.
Yeah.
No. Or the whole of Spider-Bait. I think they'd be up all night.
And look, you talk to all of us now, and we're all fighting over who gets to go to bed first. So.
Except for Daniel Johns, he's still charging.
He's still going, always. He's flying the flag for all of us, really. Yeah.
Now,
what kind of accommodation would you book on tour? And is it just is it the same as?
You know what? It's not even hotels for us. It's like motels.
Yeah.
I like. I'm the only artist in the world that rings up my agent and says, this hotel's too fancy for us. Don't book us in this one anymore.
Wasted on the kids.
It is. It's wasted on tour because you spend a few hours there. But I also like old school. I like the motel that you pull up out the front and you park right in front of your room, and it's not far to carry your bag in.
Big bucket of sand, ashtray.
Yeah. And even like I've been doing this promo tour, and the label put me up in the fanciest place down in Melbourne. And it's really nice. It's really nice, and I do feel very appreciative that they do that when they're paying for it, which is nice. But on tour, I like the old school. If I took my kids into a place like that, on tour, I'd be so worried about what they're going to do and what they're going to spill on the floor and all of that. Yeah, I don't want any of that.
And I think it's the mark of a good sort of motel when you have to order your breakfast by 9 at night and then it comes through the door at 6:30.
Or not even through the door, through one of those little hidey holes where they open it up and they put it through for you. Yeah. And they're giant, so a human could fit through if they wanted to get in and steal your stuff in the night. But
it's very prison style.
Yeah, prison style. I like it.
Now, any dates coming up in the near future? Anything you're excited for? Any shows?
Well, the Captain Tour is now on sale, so that is sort of my next thing that I get to do music-wise in Australia. I'm actually headed off in a couple of weeks to Africa. I spend a fair bit of time over there.
What part of Africa?
I'm on this trip. We go to a few different places, but I generally go to Zambia and go to a little school which I work with over there. Australian-owned school, actually, and beautiful people, Queenslanders, actually, who run the school. They're good people, those Queenslanders. And they run the school over there. Very small little one. It's only 50 kids. And I've gotten to know them over the last few years, and I'm actually about to take my kids over there to come and help me work in the school for a week, so that'll be fun. And then we actually go off and do a music safari, which I've been lucky enough to do before as well. And we just play music along the way, with a bunch of tourists from all over the world and, lions and giraffes walking by while we play a few songs,
Sounds fun. How old are your kids?
I've got my eldest boy is just about to turn 17, and then 11-year-old boy. Yeah, he is. He's driving better than me already. It's so good. And then my little girl is 7.
Okay. That sounds like a good place to be, is Kasey Chambers' kids going and singing safaris in Africa.
Singing safaris in Africa, yeah. Just the usual. Actually, that reminds me, I've got to go and talk to their school and tell them that I'm stealing them away for...
Are they a bit worldly on the Central Coast?
Well, I think my kids think it's really normal that, one day you go to school and then the next day you fly to Nashville and then you're on a cruise in Jamaica and then you go home and you've got your homework to do and, so and then it's footy training on the...
That's fun.
And then you come back here and your first date back here is a big red bash.
I know, I'm so excited about that. I love it.
It's just down the road from here, in Birdsville.
Yep, so I'm hoping all you locals will come out. Yeah. I came to your town.
Well, it is. That's where we get our post from some days when the road's closed. So. Yeah.
I love it. I've played the Big Red Bash before, actually, and it was one of those bucket list things for me because I'd never been up that way before, and I got to play it about 5 years ago, and it was such a highlight. So when they asked me to come back, and they've got the oils. They've got Midnight Oil playing and Living End and all of that. Yeah. So it's like free tickets for me to go and see all these other great bands play, so I'm stoked,
Do you think they'll be driving or flying out to Birdsville this year?
No, we'll be hitchhiking.
Staying in the pub.
Yeah, horse and cart. Isn't that the way they do it out there? Yeah.
No, well, thanks for joining us, Kasey. It sounds like you got a bit going on. It's good to hear that Endless Tour is now rebranded and it's now the Captain 20.
Yep, just using that same artwork again every time. So I'll probably do that again. Soon it'll be 20 years from Barricades and Brick Walls, so I'll do it again for that one. I can basically just do all of the records now from here on in, 20-year anniversary.
Re-release.
Yep.
Give them a whirl online.
Well, if I was your bank manager, I'd be very happy, Kasey. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Guys.
Thanks for joining us.